Hello and welcome. November the 15th marks the one-year anniversary of Al Jazeera English's launch. Our aim here at the Riz Khan Show has been to give you, the viewers, the opportunity to interact with newsmakers and celebrities from around the world. It's also been our goal to introduce you to those who haven't been on mainstream news agendas, but certainly have been on ours as we try to bring you both sides of the story. We start with the mayor of the Western Cape province, Helen Zille, whom I met in September when the show was on the road in South Africa.
South Africa really bucked the logic of its own history. Everyone expected us to end in a race war. Everyone expected us to end in a conflagration. If you'd asked me even 15 years ago whether I thought things would go this well, I would have said no.
Well, South Africa is only one of the many places we took the show this year to gain a diverse spectrum of interviews and topics. But we didn't always have to get on a plane to do that.
War doesn't solve problems. It creates them, it magnifies them. And I say this as a person who participated in a war that is considered a good war, a just war. I was a bombardier in the American Air Force in World War II, and I volunteered enthusiastically for that, believing that Hitler had to be fought. But at the end of the war, I looked at our bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I looked at the killing of 100,000 people in Tokyo. And I realized that what happens when you use war as a way of dealing with evil, you end up creating more evil. War corrupts everyone who engages in it.
Do you find that there are lessons that could be learned from the Northern Ireland situation that could be applied to the current situation between the Israelis and Palestinians?
Well, I wouldn't be arrogant enough to think that we have lessons to teach anyone. At the same time, as we learned from the South African process, I think that people perhaps could take those bits of the Irish peace process which suits them and apply that, because in every conflict resolution process there are broad principles which need to be followed. And Sinn Féin's position is that all conflicts should be resolved through dialogue and through negotiated settlements.
If you had to select one person from the past 50 years who should be brought before it for crimes against humanity, who would it be and why?
Well, many people. I cannot choose one. Many people, from Hitler to Johnson, to the people who started the Vietnam War here in the United States, to King Farouk, to Sadat, to George Bush.
These next two guests gave viewers the opportunity to ask some challenging questions to some senior government officials.
I want to ask how Mr. Walsh, being a Jew himself, and would he be ascribing to the Zionist ideology, because he must have got the right of return to Israel. Now, how can a man like him sit here, fill us with all sorts of lies and misleading information?
Let's get the Ambassador Walsh to answer, rather than sort of pointing fingers and names. I mean, you know, he feels you have a bias.
Well, I'm sorry he feels that way. I don't really know how to answer that assertion. I'm a public official, sir. My religion doesn't matter except for to me. I believe in God. I hope you do too. I don't question your faith, and I exercise my responsibilities on behalf of my government who represent the people of the United States.
I'd just like to ask, with bringing in so much foreign talent, what is being done about the unemployment in Singapore? There's so many people who don't have jobs, and yet you're bringing in more people from overseas. So are you going to retrain the people in Singapore, or how are you going to help them gain employment?
Now, is this a concern you hear much?
Yes, indeed. And this is a concern of a preoccupation of the government and of the trade union movement to see how we can regird the economy so that we measure up to the demands of global competition. The key is not to protect work. The key is to get our people prepared for global competition.
Well, the Riz Khan Show is your program. We take your suggestions and turn them into shows. We received an email from Aya Inada in France requesting us to highlight a series of murders of thousands of young women along the Texas-Mexican border.
It is a disgrace to be a woman in Ciudad Juarez, but it is a crime. It is a crime to be a poor woman in Ciudad Juarez, and I think she summed it up. Because these people don't have the wherewithal to hire attorneys to defend them, to have investigators who can get to the bottom of these crimes, it's almost as if, you know, they're the perfect victim. And because impunity reigns, because nothing happens, the murders continue. Then you have copycats and you have other sick people out there who say, well, if they got away with it, I can get away with it too.
On our first day on air, we decided to hear both sides of a contentious issue that plagues much of the Middle East and the world, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We had hoped to speak with the Palestinian Prime Minister ISMAIL HANIYEH and the Israeli Vice Premier Shimon simultaneously, but they refused to appear together. But here's what each of them thought was necessary for progress in the region.
If the U.S. administration wants to make peace in this region and wants stability and tranquility, if it really wants to do what its conscience tells it to do and speak the language of humanity, it must say the truth.
It's so basic in the eyes of everybody. The choice before all of us is either to agree or to shoot. You cannot have both of them. You cannot agree to shoot, and by shooting you cannot reach an agreement.
That set the stage as world leaders from around the globe began making appearances on the show, discussing international affairs and taking your questions. I wonder, from your perspective, have you done everything you set out to do? Have you achieved your own expectations in life?
Well, there's one expectation I haven't yet achieved in life, and that is to help bring peace to the people in what I call the Holy Land. This has been a burning desire of mine ever since before I was president and since I left the White House.
When we need aid, we will ask for it. We cannot expect any party to impose aid on us when we have not asked for it. So how can one possibly make this an issue of controversy with the Eritrean government or with the people of this country? When we need aid, we will ask for it.
Terrorism has no friends. Any gun pointed north can easily turn and be pointed in the other direction. So we recognize that. We will continue to support these global efforts, but we'll do it in line with our laws, rules and regulations.
Coming up after the break, some of the moments that had everyone on the show laughing.
I don't know, you'd actually be in a better position to answer this being a man yourself. But when men look at women who are very, sorry, I couldn't resist that. When men look at women who are very thin, until, you know, you look at a Kate Moss and you go, wow. But when a man actually is with a woman, the best example I can give you is one when I was getting a massage, and you know, I kept telling my masseur, I said, you know, I'm fat because I chat a lot. And I was just chatting away with him, and he went, Diana, a woman without a behind is like a village without a church. So you know, I don't think men want women to really be anorexic. But as I said, you'd be in a better position to answer that.